Vaishnava Culture and the Environment. It is by Sriman Dayananda, who is a learned scholar at the Institute of Vaishnava Studies, Gainesville. I would briefly like to introduce you about him. Sriman Dayananda is a Vaishnava scholar affiliated with the Institute of Vaishnava Studies, Gainesville, Florida. He is a leading an effort to convert young people to adopt Vaishnava values and practices that are harmonious with nature. His approach is under the umbrella of cultural ecology and deep ecology. He has written many books, monographs, and articles on the Vaishnava culture, benign impact on nature and what modern global society can extract from the culture to survive. He himself is a practitioner of Vaishnava culture for more than 5 decades. Over to Sriman Dayanand.
Hello. I'll try to keep my presentation a little, maybe 15 minutes, something like that.
Okay.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavari Pashyatya Desha Tarane. You can hear me all right?
Yes, sir. You are clearly audible.
Good. Can I show some slides?
Yeah.
I'd like to have control of the screen here.
Share screen, yes.
Yeah, you can see those slides? Or this, it says Vaishnava culture and the environment?
Not yet, Prabhu.
Oh, I have to do it myself. I see. Okay. You're not
share screen
you're not-
option.
Yes.
right. Okay. You're not controlling then. All right then. It should be this one here. All right. So this is all right here?
Yes.
We can see your screen, Prabhu, but you have to project your
Okay.
PowerPoint. Open the file, please.
Oh, it should say, it should be on PowerPoint. It should say Vaishnava culture and, no?
Yeah, I can see your folder. So you go to your folder, which I see now. You click on Vaishnava Culture and Environment PowerPoint. So it should open. The file is not open yet.
I did. It is open. I'm not, for some reason it's not showing. All right.
Maybe if you allow, then we can control remotely from your computer.
Wait a minute. Here, let me do it again. All right. Now you see it?
Yes.
Yes.
I
We
have
can
to
see
get
now.
rid of this. I have to get rid of this. All right. Okay, good. Now I think I've got it. Okay. I wasted a couple of minutes there. I just wanted to start a react to a couple of things. I'm a bit of an iconoclast. This is Vaishnava activism in the United States, so a little different from probably some of the other presentations. I just wanted to comment on a couple of words. I hear this word advanced country or developed country and developing country. I really don't like these words. I consider the countries that have the least impact on the environment are advanced or developed. So moving on, Vaishnava culture and the environment. Why isn't this advancing here? All right, terminology. Instead of Western culture, I use the word modern global culture. Vaishnava culture I define as the hundreds of millions of people around the world who honor or worship Vishnu. It's not like Christian culture. It's billions of people, but they're not all following the Bible per se. Overconsumption, I think that probably many presenters have discussed overconsumption, that overconsumption and its associated pollution are at the root. And I just wanted to mention that scientists broadly propose 3 categories of solutions, or at least this is my analysis. One is the remediation of existing problems. Many problems exist, and then there are attempts to address these problems, like, for example, global warming, and then development technology to prevent future problems, or technologies for remediation, and less consumption. Less consumption is really a big problem. The first 2 are arguably stopgap solutions, and less consumption tends to be out of the scope of science and left to politicians, as we see with global warming. It's mainly a political issue, or at least they're at the fore of the issue. So, but political solutions tend to be shallow and inadequate. And shallow is a sort of a subtle reference to deep ecology. Cultural and theological solutions are really best. And this is a chart. We see that at the bottom left, you can see 1970. So since 1970, there's been more and more resource use. And you can see that in the world, the US is the most egregious, whereas India, at 0.7 Earths, of course, this is a little old, it's a few years old. India is becoming less advanced in its relationship to nature. But nevertheless, I say Vaishnava culture, but we can refer often to Indian culture, targeting youth. So this talk is based on the fundamental concepts of a project that targets American, European, and Australian youth. And the goal is to recruit young activists. And the following are 4 environmentally relevant characteristics of Vaishnava culture. Now, I think it was Tushar Dash. I'm not sure if it was you, but I thought in a previous talk you asked about spirituality. Well, I never use this word spiritual. In the West, spiritual and religion sometimes have a pejorative, much more so than in India. There's a pejorative sort of aura around these words. So this is cultural, Vaishnava culture. So and these are 4 things that I derive as the essence of Vaishnava culture that definitely impact the environment. One is seeing all beings as soul. And now seeing nature as sacred, or aspects of nature as sacred, creates a boundary between humans and nature. Now, this is not mine. I'd love for this to have been invented by me, but there are others who say this, especially some deep ecologists. And that can be observed in Indian society with rivers, mountains, monkeys, cows, rats, trees, and other aspects of nature. There is, in New Zealand, there is a river that they've given. This is just a 1 minute. Can you, oh, sorry. Can you hear that when I play it? Did you hear the music? Can somebody comment? Do you hear the music?
No, I don't hear.
You don't hear any music when the video starts.
No, I don't hear. Actually, while sharing the screen, there is an option for sharing the audio also. So maybe if you want to share the audio.
All right, we're going to skip these in the interest of time. Here's a video
Human-centric versus life-centric.
called Human-Centric versus Life-Centric. And I use the word life-centric. It's a 1 minute video. I was going to show. It's on YouTube. But I'll just mention, it's sort of a propaganda video, you could say, that human-centric versus life-centric. And at the end, I begin to say that it's life or soul. So the idea is to call attention to the fact that we're focused on ourselves as humans, and that we must be focused on the concept of all life. So number 2 is joy of austerity. Excuse me. Rishabdev, in the Bhagavatam, I'm quoting, explains that austerity results in Brahma-sokyam. So there's this connection between joy or enjoyment and austerity. Sokyam is from the word sukha, dukkha, sukha. Vaishnavas respect yogis and sadhus for their detachment and austerity. So throughout history, there's been this respect for those who are detached from things. And this respect, it has a subtle influence in society's over-exploitation of nature. In traditional culture, a brahmachari would live in Gurukul, learning to practice austerity. Number 3 is agrarian economy. Of course, you've heard many, I think it's Gauranga Prabhu, it's Eco Village, and Radhanath Swami. Agrarian economy, Vaishnavas understand. Now, this is philosophical. This is from the Bhagavad Gita. They understand that devas provide human necessities. Agriculture is part of a natural cycle or yajna that reciprocates with the devas and the supreme. This is from Bhagavad Gita chapters 3 and 4. Krishna says that one who uses the resources of nature without participating in that cycle of yajna is a thief. Yo bhukte stena eva saha. So that cycle of yajna is that we get resources from nature and we offer those in yajna, and then by offering the we get again good results from our labor. So a lot of people, India used to, I don't know anymore, but in the 50s, 60s, 70s, at the beginning of movies, films, there used to be this word karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karam phaletur purmate sangos karmani, that the everyone has the right to work. So I think it was government wanted to encourage everyone to work hard. But it says, no, we don't have the right to those results. So what do we do with the results? We offer them. And here, regardless, there's Gandhiji proposed a little more liberal definition of yajna. He taught that we were born with yajna just as we were born with karma. So this is consistent, but this is Vaishnava philosophy, that yajna and karma. Gandhi said that the concept of yajna implies that we are debtors for life and obliged to serve the universe. This concept is not available. I was first associated with Prabhupada in 1967, and he was talking about debts to the ancestors and to the devas, and it was something I had never heard in my life growing up in the U.S. Debts to these entities that were beyond my vision. So that idea is common within the culture. Ishopanishad says that the Supreme owns everything and one should accept only one's quota. And these themes are embedded deeply in the Vaishnava psyche. Here's a collage of agrarian, sort of illustrating agrarian society. Now, number 4, this is, I would say, the most important practical aspect of our presentation or our teaching is celebration of Vishnu Leela. So Vaishnavism supports at its essence a Leela-based culture. And Vaishnavas celebrate Vishnu and Krishna Leelas in art, architecture, home and temple worship, drama, festivals, holidays, and more. Leelas provide a mystical connection with the divine. Notice I don't use the word spiritual. In practice, they divert attention, resources, and money away from the exploitation of nature and toward the celebration of the Supreme and the Devas. In the current age, yajna, which is I mentioned above, is expressed through the celebration of Vishnu Leela and Nama. The Puranas and Itihasas are composed almost entirely of Leelas. Another name for Vishnu is Yajna. Krishna explains that he is the Adhyagya or Paramatma. This is at the end of chapter 5, verse 29. He says, Bhoktarang Yagitapasang. And in chapter 8, he talks about himself as Adhyagya. So he's the enjoyer of all yagyas. This is a kind of idea of celebration of Leela. Celebration of Leela is accompanied by Nama, and distribution of prasad is yajna in this age. Of course, in India, you see all these people doing the Agnihotra yajna. In the ISKCON movement and in the Gaudiya Vaishnavism, that concept of yajna is there, certainly, but the broader concept is endorsed throughout the Vaishnava world. These Tukaram and all these other Vaishnavas, they have this, especially within sort of popular Vaishnavism. People can do Leela celebration every day, just worshiping deity in their home. Vishnu, form of Vishnu Narayana, Bal Krishna, all these different types of worship are connected with Leela. So celebration of Leela is accompanied by Nama and distribution of prasad. Now, I can't emphasize enough the practical side of Leela celebration is that the mass of people are encouraged to find enjoyment in the Leelas and not through overconsumption. Now, the Pope discusses, in 2015, he issued something, and he spoke about the overconsumption can be counteracted. The obsession with overconsumption can be counteracted by basically by contemplation and religious life. And in the previous discussion, Rasvilas Prabhu, Rameshji, said that this simple living or this contemplative living or looking inside, but I'm endorsing something else. I'm looking outside. It's a cultural focus on the Leela celebration on a massive scale. The practical aspect. Sorry, did I read that? The practical aspect. Yes, to combat overconsumption. And that's the mass of people, and society's leaders are encouraged to establish temples and sponsor grand festivals in honor of the Leelas. So that society is not overwhelmed with the obsession for consumption, which is mistakenly taken for enjoyment. Now, here's another video essay, 1 minute only, that I was going to show, but actually, if I'm going to be, looks like I'm going on 20 minutes. We're finishing up here. So this was a 1 minute video showing that the two types of enjoyment, the exploitative enjoyment that causes environmental destruction and non-exploitative, cultural ecology. So I'm going to move quickly here. This concept of Vaishnava culture is within the category of cultural ecology. It's an academic discipline. Now, I want to get into philosophy. I'm really going to go through this fast because it's right at the end. But I'm a little, I guess you say, proud. Vaishnava shouldn't be proud. I'm a little proud of this aspect. The Taittiriya Aranyaka lists 4 pramanas: Aitihya, Smriti, Pratyaksha, and Anumana. So I'm focusing here on Aitihya. Aitihya comes from, we all know the word itihasa. Itihasa is also from, it means history. So Aitihya is sometimes identified with Smriti, that is the Vedas, Puranas, and Itihasas that are passed down in the form of tradition. It's sometimes defined as expert testimony, like that in a court of law, or as heritage, meaning the Vedic heritage. But Aitihya is a pramana. Now, I'm arguing that a science that relies on pratyaksha is incomplete without Aitihya, and there's little to no evidence that such a science based on pratyaksha, like these how do you say it, Lokayatas, the Charavakas from the maybe 500 BC or something around there. They were very popular in India. That such a science can foster a culture, pratyaksha, that does not overexploit and destroy nature. If science allows harm to befall humanity and Earth, then it's either false or incomplete. Now, many scientists believe that an observation or analytical science is not responsible for the Earth's destruction. However, my argument is that such a knowledge system is irrational and irresponsible. The means of reestablishing harmony with nature is to incorporate Aitihya within science. So those who depend on pratyaksha must accept Aitihya because culture's effect on nature is observable. So here's a little slide. This is the end, by the way. A little slide with one of our, at present, this is really more of a network. We have plans for developing our strategies. I didn't present any of our strategies here for how we're going to develop, but that's another talk. This is Sri Devi leading a group of young activists in New Orleans, climate activists. So that's the end of my presentation. I think I did 15 minutes, didn't I? No, I did 20.
20 minutes.
But I lost 2 minutes to technology. So now,
Hare Krishna.
now I'm back.
So now the session is open to the questions we can take, and in between I will just summarize also. Sriman Dayananda has spoken about the Vaishnava culture and especially about recruiting the young people, life-centric approaches about all human beings are soul, joy of austerity, Brahma Saukhyam, Agrarian Economy, celebration of Vishnu Leela and its importance, types of enjoyment, cultural ecology and related philosophy. Thank you, sir, for giving an excellent talk that has increased our knowledge. Now the session is open to the question. Please type your question to the chat box. So I think everybody has understood.
Okay, I'll just mention one thing. Now, again, I just wanted to emphasize that this is these concepts are meant to be presented to convert Vaishnava activists in the United States, Europe, and Australia. So this presentation is really not so much for Indian consumption, although certainly as a part of modern global culture, it is in that sense.
So thank you, sir. So we will now.
There are a couple of questions, Prabhu. Prabhu,
Yeah, there are a couple of questions.
The chat box,
Yes,
please.
questions I am seeing, but we can take it later on. That has been covered also earlier. There is
Somebody
one
said,
question.
can science and philosophy go hand in hand?
Yes, Right.
Yeah, what's the use? I'm going to speak. I'm a bit of an iconoclast. What's the use of philosophy? In the 50s, I had a favorite comedian. And the comedian said, my brother is a Harvard philosopher, and he's a philosopher is somebody who says, this is a glass of water, but is it a glass of water? And if it is a glass of water, why is it a glass of water? And eventually he dies of thirst. So that's sort of a part of my opinion about philosophy. So philosophy and spirituality are something that, as I said, in the West, these are, I mean, if you look at income, who makes more money in university, a physicist or a philosopher? A professor of religion or a professor of chemistry or biology? So where does society place emphasis? So my point is that that this has to be practical. So culture is practical. What I presented to you was indeed philosophical, but we have practical strategies for how to implement this, for how to convert young people and get young people to be active and to support our vision. All right, I will say two things. Our fundamental focus, we have two. One is to conduct festivals, grand festivals. Now, if I had my way, I would take all of the money that Vaishnavas collect and put them into Rath Yatra type festivals in the West. Every month, we should spend $1 million on a festival, because that's the yajna, a Leela festival. Leela, that's the philosophy, the Vaishnava philosophy. That's what replaces enjoyment. So instead of $1 million spent on Jeff Bezos or Zuckerman or whoever, let's spend it on Leela festivals. On the other side, on agricultural development, getting all these city boys and girls back to the farms where their grandfathers and great-grandfathers came from. So those are the two fundamental strategies of this activist program. Yes, somebody else?
Yeah, so there is one more question on, still Vaishnavas do not correlate with environmentalism, thinking it is not their responsibility. They think it's deviation from Vaishnavism. How do we reconcile? So,
Yes, I understand this perspective very well, because when I present Vaishnavism, the environment they have, many Vaishnavas have a misconception about how I'm just concerned about Mother Earth. And that's, as you say, a deviation. It's just a matter of pushing Vaishnavas to... Now, I've decided some years ago not to place the ordinary Vaishnava in a negative light in terms of the environment. My position is that every Vaishnava is an environmentalist, because as Ras Vilas Prabhu said in the previous talk, if one is a vegetarian, one consumes half of the water that a non-vegetarian consumes. Now, that's just a vegetarian. But Vaishnavas, overall, if you consider the hundreds of millions of Vaishnavas, they're living far more in harmony with nature. So simply by identifying as a Vaishnava, one is an environmentalist. As a vegetarian, as somebody who's a little bit less interested in consumption. And I think that that's better to take a positive point of view in relation to Vaishnavas instead of a negative view, and saying that, oh, you have to improve in order to set an example to the outside world. Why improve? The improvement will be there naturally. if we push this agenda, in my opinion. So, sorry, that's enough from me. Another point, and I'll answer with just 2-3 words if you want to ask another 1 or 2 questions.
So we can take only last question. They are asking in your presentation you showed India not using resources fully like America. Please throw more light on it.
Yeah, America is a primitive society. Primitive. Those societies that consume more are primitive. They're non-advanced societies, not developed. The societies who use less resources are advanced. They are the developed countries or societies. That's my iconoclastic statement. Is that what you wanted?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, that didn't sound very enthusiastic. Anyway, that's all right.
Okay. Thank you, Sriman Dayananda Prabhu. It was a very interesting talk, and we have got a lot of good perspectives. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So